Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the December 15th meeting, and I would recognize a motion to that effect.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next, we have a Suburban School District amended application for funding. Mr. Winger.
Thank you. We do have one application for your consideration today. It does come to us from Putnam City Public Schools, $208,130, and this is to assist in the kitchen remodel at Rollingwood Elementary School. It does meet the requirements of the memorandum, and we recommend approval.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion to approve this amended application for funding.
Move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second, Mr.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is we're being asked to approve the preliminary design report for Buchanan Elementary School, Project ES49.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have one preliminary report for your consideration today. Sean Willis with the Stacy Group is here to make that presentation and answer any questions that you may have. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A brief overview of Buchanan Elementary is an existing elementary school that we are adding a small addition to convert the school to a capacity of 462 students, pre-K through 6th grade facility. The site and facilities assessment is a list of items that are pretty standard throughout all the projects. They include painting, windows, flooring, ceilings, lights, those kinds of things, a complete interior remodel of the school and exterior. The addition to the school, our goal, and you'll see later on in the elevations, is to a seamless addition. The architecture will match. It won't be a separate piece in the building. It will look like it was built with the original building. This is the site plan, the proposed site plan. The three items I'd like to point out: one is we have moved the entrance to the school from Utah up to the top of the sheet there off of 18th Street to be off of the existing parking lot for visitors and staff. We are including as an alternate a drop-off lane to help the students' safety there. It's really a tight neighborhood with off-street parking. And the addition here on the right side of the page lends itself to continuing the classroom corridor. The plan, we have met with the administration at many levels and come up with a plan that we believe incorporates all of their wishes and meets the program itself. Again, you can see on the top of the page, the red area is the new administration entrance, and I'd like to point out we've separated the lower grade levels from the upper grade levels. This is a enlargement of the new entry. We have included an entry canopy for protection of the students and also a secure vestibule, sort of the easiest low-tech way to protect the student safety. This is an enlargement of the addition. It includes the media center, computer lab, music art, 2 6th grade classrooms. And we've located this in such a way that when the future gym happens to this school, this could be locked off from the rest of the school and easily accessed from the existing parking lot. This is just a brief overview again of the items I just mentioned, the secure vestibule and the administration direct access up the parking lot. The elevations show the new entry here, and on the right side of the bottom you can see how it just continues the architecture of the school itself. These are the elevations of the addition, again continuing the same architecture, the same brick fascia, and then the new windows throughout the school. The finishes have been approved by the staff at the school. The main accent colors, if you will, are the blue and gold that match their school colors, and they seem to be really excited about the new colors. The floor pattern plan, you can see, incorporates those colors. We tried to liven up and brighten up the hallways, and at the same time they requested a line down the hall to keep the students lined up when they change between classes. We do have a few alternates we would like to include. The one I've discussed previously is the drop-off lane. There is some kitchen equipment that is above program requirements that they would like, and additional classroom millwork above the program. Some items we have identified that are, in addition to the original scope, are roof repair, replacement, and the existing school is going to be required to have a fire suppression system to meet current codes. We are in the process of starting construction documents after approval. We hope to be bidding in May and starting construction this summer. Our budget showing the new PIP number, we are just barely under budget, which is good. And with that, any questions?
I do have a question. If you change the entrance and we don't have the drop-off lane, is that going to cause a problem now that you move that entrance to 18th Street?
The current entrance has a drop-off, but they don't use it. It's really not a drop-off lane. It's a covered parking area. What we are doing, they currently use 18th Street now for bus and parent pickup. They kind of line the streets. It's really tight, and all we are doing is extending the drop-off lane even further on the school property, so cars can get off of the street and there's less congestion on the street, so that when the kids are loading in their cars, they're not crossing the street to get to the cars. So although we're moving the entrance to the school, we're not moving the drop-off lane.
Drop-off lane's still there. You're making it bigger?
We're just making it bigger.
Okay. That's a good question.
Yes.
The roof is interesting. That needs to be the first thing fixed. Why is that an alternative?
There are certain areas in the school that have been identified as leaking, and we've went up on the roof and analyzed and walked around. There are certain, over time, some areas that have had flashing fail, and we have identified those areas that are most critical, and we're going to do a complete replacement on those sections. There are parapet-to-parapet sections or complete wings of the school that we can do at this time to meet the current budget. If to do the entire school, we would have to identify some items to either take out of the budget or move around in order to meet the cost of re-roofing the entire school.
So this is not this item that you would like to do, it's not an add-on item, you're going to do it?
We are going to do about 45% is kind of about a good estimate of all the school.
It's in addition to the...
But it was not included in the original dollar amount.
But you are going to do this?
Right. Those two additional items are items that in the budget I've shown and in the project, those are included. They were in addition to the scope and budget we were given to start the project.
Okay.
Other questions? I would recognize a motion that this report be approved.
Move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We now move into approval of a couple of sets of plans and specifications, final plans and specifications. First is to recommend the Board of Education of Independent School District number 89 to approve the final plans and specifications for Project EB14, Classen School of Advanced Studies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first of two final plans to be presented to you today. We do have Dan Skaggs here with HSE Architects to make that presentation and answer any questions that you may have.
Good afternoon. I'll briefly go through the design. It's not significantly changed from the preliminary design that you approved. Classen School of Advanced Studies, just as a reminder, is 6th grade through 12th school right now, School of Advanced Studies. We've designed for the 931 student capacity. As you may recall, throughout the design process, we did an extensive investigation. It's a grand old building with grand old problems, and so we found a few additional problems that we had to address in this design and are doing so. We have had to incorporate a few alternates, which I'll get to in just a moment, in order to keep within the budget. So we prioritize a few things, but we have addressed all the program requirements and code requirements and repairs in the base bid. These next few slides are just the 3 levels of floor plans, so I'll kind of breeze through those quickly. You may remember Among the additional items we found that we needed to do is a fire sprinkler system throughout the school. We've had to add some egress corridors and fire stairs. We have submitted color samples, material samples, and an interior design package to the staff and community, and it was received very well. So these next few slides are renderings showing that interior design package. So the whole school will be fully renovated as you intended. Budget and phasing were the complications in this project, I think, beyond what is maybe the norm. So I'll just spend a few minutes on those, just anticipating that may be, any questions you may have may be regarding those. We've extended the construction period to 22 months due to the fact that the school will need to remain in session, and the school building is completely occupied, meaning every square foot is being used currently. And we're not doing any additions in this project, therefore the need to shuffle students around and add temporary classroom buildings to accomplish construction necessitates a few extra months to complete this project. So, and a little bit of time spent on phasing to make sure that school can remain in session, can function properly, and contractor can get into parts of the building to complete the renovation. So to sum up the phasing, obviously the first task is to get the temporary classroom buildings on site and occupiable. We've been working with the principal. I believe her plan is that she intends to move the lower grades into the temporary buildings as a permanent home, if you will, during construction, and then shuffle the upper grades back and forth between classes. So that's a little bit different than what I've spelled out on this slide. But the result is the same. We can vacate essentially half a floor of classrooms at a time and turn that over for construction, those classrooms being housed in the temporary classroom space. We do have a lengthy list of alternates. Again, program requirements are addressed in the base bid. We are doing things like repairing roofs, repairing the gym roof rather than replacing it. We have investigated the roof, and leaks that have been addressed in recent history really are attributable to parapet flashing and where the parapet wall connects to the roof. So in the base bid, we are addressing that issue, but as an upgrade, we are offering an alternate to replace the entire roof of the gymnasium. The rest of the roofs are in good shape. Again, any roof leaks they have in the main school building are attributable to cap flashing, cast stone caps that need to be repointed, and flashing at the parapet wall. So the roof's in good shape, it's just flashing. And again, that will be addressed in the base bid. The gym floor, again, as an example of another alternate, we are offering an add to replace the entire gym floor, but in the base bid we will fix and address warped floor areas that exist in the current gymnasium floor currently. We just, the budget was tight enough on this that we wanted a little bit of insurance to make sure we could get an awardable bid, and therefore we made sure we addressed every issue in base bid, but made the list of alternates of things that we'd like to see done maybe a little better if funding allows. Any questions?
Questions?
Are the alternates given in some sort of priority order, or does the city have the option to award bids?
City has the option. The way I've seen it work in the past, we sit down not only with the city, but usually with the principal or representative school district, and make the decision which alternates we want based on how the bids came in. But to answer your question, they're not necessarily in a list of priority as you see up here.
Other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. I'd recognize a motion to recommend the final plan and specifications be approved and secretary to advertise for bids.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is to approve the final plans and specifications for project EB16 and ES77 Southeast High School, and authorize the secretary to advertise for bids to be received February 2nd, 2010.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the last of the final plans presentations to be made today. I want to bring one item to your attention. You'll notice that this project now has two project numbers. It has its original bond project number of EB16, and it has a new ES, or a sales tax project number of 77. Before we begin the presentation, what I will mention is, as we discussed in the past, this is going to be one of the projects that we recommend that the construction contract be funded from the sales tax funds. We have a sales tax contingency that will allow for us to help assist in the bond deficit. There's another presentation that we'll make during the general manager report, and I can bring better detail to that. But with that said, the architectural and all the work that's been done to date will still be maintained under the bond project number. It's just as the construction bids are received and we consider award of this contract, that will then be converted into a sales tax or a trust contract, achieving all the same results as we intended originally. It's just coming from two funding sources instead of one. We do have Deborah James here from AIP to make this presentation and answer any other questions that you may have.
Good afternoon. I'm Debarun, and I've been working on this. I've been the project architect on this project for the last year. I'm sure you're familiar with this presentation. It's not too different from what we showed at the schematic and the preliminary report stages. Just go through a few of the highlight some of the scope of work that are included in this. And this is the site plan. The work on the site mostly includes a little bit of landscaping to cover up or shield some of the industrial sheds, that shed-type buildings that are present towards the south of the school. Also, major work being done in the entrance, where we are adding a canopy and upgrading the landscape there, repairing the parking lot. Upgrading of the entrance canopy is to also do with the image of the school, which a lot of the parents felt that was lacking, and we felt that the canopy was going to highlight the entrance to the school itself, and we'll see a better perspective later. This is a 165,000 square foot school built from 1949 through 65 in different phases. Again, there are no major additions to the building itself, at least externally. We have some modifications, actual modifications in the admin area, and also the storage bay, where you're going to use that as a classroom, office, and storage area, part of it. This is the second floor, where again, no major construction. The areas that we see in blue are where some of the classrooms are changing function. Of course, the entire school is going to be painted. Any repair that has been identified, and the ceiling, floor, wall is going to be done. But the areas in blue are where it's changing function. And I should have mentioned that on the lower floor too. Areas in blue are where there's either a function change or some construction. There is a selection of the material, and we have a larger board on display over here, which actually zooms into the areas that these finishes are being applied to. And this, again, has been done in conjunction with the current administration and the staff at the school, and with their approval. Few photographs of the exterior of the existing building. We're going to clean, repoint, repaint, and repair any existing, any and all existing area on the exterior. The only new development on the exterior is this canopy that we are proposing at the entrance, and this is that landscaping area at the entrance of the school that I spoke about earlier. This is looking at the entrance from Shields. The budget, the original budget was 5.4 million, and we have come in at 6.2 plus. We are over the budget by $800,000+, and we have two alternates. One is a 8-track asphalt athletic track for the football field at the school, and the second is the JROTC marching pad. Currently, they don't have a marching pad, and they use the parking lot. Quick look at the schedule. We are on target for February 10th. I think the bids come in early February, and construction then on, depending on the approval. And as of now, we are progressing with a finish date of April 30th, 2011. Any questions?
Questions?
What's the tax refunding? Sorry, what's the gap, and how much is the tax funding?
So on this project, we would recommend that the entire project be funded from the tax that was presented today. So it would not be split funded. We would fund the entire difference, what was presented today. The other item that I might bring to your attention of the $828,000 that it's over, and included in your memo that's in your packets, there were two items that were not originally in the project. That would be the fire suppression system and also a partial roof replacement that will ensure that we've got the building dried in. And that's what makes up the overage on this project. We're hoping for favorable bids, but that's what's being projected at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you. Seeing none, recommend, or I would look for a motion to approve these final plans and specifications and authorize the Secretary to advertise for bids.
Move approval.
Thank you. Second? It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next, we're being asked to receive the Consultant Review Committee report and authorize negotiation of an architectural services contract with Mass Architects for Project ES64, Rockwood Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have 4 projects for consideration today. This is the first of those 4. It is with Mass Architects. They are a previous architect for MAPS. They have performed work on Stanwetty and also Hawthorne Elementary Schools. We recommend approval.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is to receive the Consultant Review Committee report and authorize negotiation of an architectural services contract with Boynton Williams and Associates for Project ES63, Arthur Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boynton Williams also is a repeat architect performing work on Star Spencer, Adams, Lee, and Parks, and we recommend approval.
Questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
It's been moved. Or second? Seconded?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item, receive the Consultant Review Committee report, authorize negotiation of architectural services contract with LWPB PC, DBA LWPB Architecture for Project ES62, Hayes Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also a repeat architect on Douglas, Northeast Academy, Mark Twain. We recommend approval of LWPB to this project.
Are there questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next, receive the Consultant Review Committee report and authorize negotiation of architectural services contract with TAP, the Architectural Partnership PC, for Project ES61, Rancho Village Elementary School.
Our final project for consideration today, TAP is previously performed on Martin Luther King, Southern Hills, and Eugene Field, and we recommend approval.
Are there questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion for approval.
Move approval.
It's been moved. Or second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We have a couple of change orders. First is we're being asked to approve change order number 14 for Heronville Elementary School, increase of $18,883 project ES-12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our final change order for Heronville Elementary School. It's been substantially complete for some time. There are 4 items on this change, number 3 being the largest of those, sidewalk replacement at $10,029. Total change order is $18,883. The time extension is 37 days to account for the items that are included in this change order. It meets all of the requirements, and we're recommending approval.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion to approve this change order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Finally, we're being asked to approve change order number 4 for Kaiser Elementary School, an increase of $38,087, project ES-30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is change order number 4 for Kaiser Elementary School. There are 15 items on this change order, $38,087. There's no additional days. The most significant item on this is item number 2, roof drains for $10,369. We have item number 10, kitchen service ramp and guardrail at $39.31. And the last major one is some millwork replacement. HSE Architects is our architect of record. The total on this would be about 4.7% in total changes, and we recommend approval.
Questions?
Where are we in the final completion of if we're almost 5% over the contract amount?
The new addition is nearly complete. Some renovations have been underway at Kaiser for some time. The contractor is actually running a little bit behind schedule and is attempting to catch up, but we're over the 50% mark in the completion. I believe we've identified all of the significant changes that are necessary, but we're continuing to work with that contractor. It's been a problematic school with several unknowns being uncovered in the construction phase.
Is there a motion for approval?
The overall roof, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. They looked at the overall roof and determined they need the drains, or does that just get left out, or we just don't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. On the roof drains, there were some additional roof drains that were required on some of the existing roof, and so this will ensure proper drainage from that facility.
I think there was a motion. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Mr. Couch.
To start out the General Manager's update, Eric's going to give us a presentation on the OC Mass revenue and funding update.
Thank you. I'll bring this up. We had, I apologize for the draft comment on this. It looks like it's been replaced, but this is the same presentation that we had intended to give.
Okay.
One of the things that I want to bring to you is that we want to give you a revenue summary, kind of a history of the revenue on Maps for Kids, program status, construction costs, contingency fund report, something that we've talked about from time to time. One of the more significant items, and we had an item on the agenda today, the Southeast and Northwest Class and High School funding plan, and then some additional information as well. As we talk about the revenue summary, and I think some of this is probably repeat information for most of you, but city sales tax, of course, it ended December 31st. The projections were $512 million. Actual collections were $514. We are still seeing some revenue come in today, and of course, that's in interest proceeds, and those are not included in these totals. These would be from the actual collections themselves. We have anticipated about $40+ million in interest alone on the Maps for Kids projects. School bond funds authorized $180 million. The final sale on the bonds was completed in June of 2007. The funding, just to review that, 100% of the bond funds go to I-89 public schools. On the 7-year sales tax collection, those are split 70-30. So the total to I-89 is about $530 total million. That includes the construction projects, the transportation, and the technology. And then, of course, we've got the $153 million that's generated from that 30% for the suburban schools. When we break those numbers down, $470 million, 88 total projects for I-89. That would include the early start projects in addition to just the schools as well. On the transportation, $9 million for the 160 school buses and $52 million for the computers, network, and software. The $153 million, as we referenced the 23 suburban school districts, again, is broken down, and that's the grant application process that you see at each of the meetings. These are the same update slides that were provided in the previous semi-annual report. We had presented these to council just a few weeks ago and just wanted to bring those back to your attention. When we start talking about the funding, the transportation, of course, has been complete for some time. The suburban is fully appropriated. The funds are in, and we're just awaiting the last of the applications from the suburban districts to be claimed. The construction is better than 50%, now at 55%, and the technology lacks just a few percentage points behind. Again, we have to complete the renovations at a school before we can fully implement the new technologies. As we talk about construction dollars expended as a part of the program, again, this is a summary of those. They're consistent with that of construction completion, with more than 50% of the dollars also being expended. Historically, as we look at the program back in December of 2006, just a few short years ago, 55% of the projects had yet to be initiated. In December of 2007, that number of uninitiated projects dropped to 47%. In 2008, it was 28%. And then just this past month, there were only 4% of the projects, 13 projects to be exact, that had not yet begun. Architectural selection is underway on those at this point, and we anticipate having contracts on those final projects in the next month. This is the suburban school district map of Oklahoma City. Everything that you see in color is the city limits of Oklahoma City, with the Oklahoma City district, the largest, located at the center. This gives you an idea of the other 23 districts that are across. You can see the small square mile again of the Norman Public School District in southeast Oklahoma City. Not the smallest by the number of students. There are 6 or 7 students, Oklahoma City resident students, that attend Norman Public Schools. The smallest is actually Crutcho, East Oklahoma City, with 1 student, the largest being Putnam City at over 15,000. Disbursements through December of 2009, this is the amounts that have been sent to those districts. Of course, the largest, Putnam City, you can see $43 million has already been sent to that district for improvements. But you also see other leaders, Moore Public Schools with 31.8 and Edmond at 15.1. At this point, when we start speaking of the ID9 projects, there are 30 projects complete. That would also include the early start and some of the other early packages. 17 currently in construction, 22 in the design phase. 2 of those 22 would include the Southeast and Class and SAS projects that will quickly be moving into that construction phase after today. And in pre-design, we have the 13 projects that I mentioned. That's that 4% in the status report on December. A&E contract negotiations on 4 of those, selection on 4, and then we have 5 projects that have AE proposals that are due this Friday. Construction cost and contingency fund report. Historically, when we speak of construction costs, we've had presentations to you in the past that have shown the swelling of construction at a rate of nearly 8% a year through the year 2008. When we began in 2000, we were able on an average to build schools at $118 a square foot. That quickly rose to over $170, $178 to be exact, in 2008. And we have seen this past year a significant decrease in the overall construction cost for schools, and we're back down to about $150 a foot for new construction. A lot of the reasons for the increases, and we had spoken of these before, is the Asian economics, the tsunami and hurricane relief programs, concurrent construction projects, and also labor shortages. But most recently, the decreases are due to the general economic downturns that we've seen in 2009. And so we've been taking advantage of that. We bid over $70 million construction dollars out in our community last year alone. We're expecting a very similar bid market this year and plan to do the same. This is a graph that we showed about a year ago in 2008 to show the acceleration of construction costs. Again, we would typically expect to see an average somewhere between 3% and 4% a year, and this is this nearly 8% a year graph that caused many of our projects to exceed their original budgets. The reason we've been able to move forward, again, is because we've managed 2 levels of contingency funds. The first is that project contingency, and those are budgeted in the implementation plan. Those are 4% for new construction and 6% for renovation projects. The change orders that you approved today are being funded through those project contingency funds. But in addition to the project contingency, we've been maintaining a program contingency which has a current projected balance of $24 million. And that's generated predominantly from the interest proceeds on the sales tax collections. It's what we're able to use to ensure the successful completion of the Maps for Kids program. We are projecting a balance at this point, but there's several things, obviously, with several bids yet to be received. Most recently, we have entered into an agreement with ID9 to help assist in the management of their 2007 bond program. We will be using approximately $6 million of those dollars to continue assisting them with gymnasium and classroom improvements through the year 2015. But with that said, we still anticipate a fund balance even after those additional items are procured. As we start talking about program contingency usage, this is a graph of several of the schools. What you see above the 0 line are the budgets that were included in the PIP, and what you see below that zero line is the usage of what we had in the past as program contingency. Some of the early projects like Grant, John Marshall, and Ridgeview used those contingency funds in those years where those construction costs were in excess of what we had budgeted. And so the program contingency has fluctuated quite a bit over the life of Maps for Kids. One of the other projects that used a significant amount of contingency is Centennial High School. That had more to do not just with construction bid market, but also additional scope of work changes to the program. I bring these to your attention as I forward on to this next slide. The major reason that the bond program is in a deficit at this time is because a lot of the contingency funds were expended on those early bond projects. The ID9 bond projected balance at this point, and we have not bid all the projects out, but it is in deficit by nearly $21 million. However, on the sales tax fund, because of interest proceeds and the fact that we're receiving favorable bids, now there's over $45 million in contingency. And when we add those together, this is the $24 million that I speak from, that we have a combined contingency to manage all the projects under the Maps for Kids program and ensure the successful completion. But it leaves us the problem. We can't end the bond program with a deficit. We must end that with a zero balance or better. And so the plan for the moment is to fund both Southeast and Northwest Class and High School projects from the sales tax. And by doing that, we can actually erase the $21.7 million bond deficit by moving those monies. Again, Southeast is about a $6.5 million project. Northwest Classes is about a $13.6 million project for a total of $20.1 million. This will not change the $24 million program contingency. I know the numbers are ironically close, the $20.1 million. We're not using $24 million of program contingency. We are simply changing the accounts, and so we will be maintaining that, but we will be erasing the $21 million bond deficit by using those surplus tax proceeds. Okay? But we will continue funding all the architectural testing and administrative costs from the bond funds. That's the reason for the dual project numbers on Southeast. We won't be making changes to those contracts. We will fund construction and future change orders on these two projects from sales tax proceeds. And so you can expect in the coming month or two, we will have a Northwest Class and final plan presentation that will be very similar to the Southeast presentation that you've seen today. What you can expect in a month is that we'll be preparing a PIP amendment, making sure that we move those projects over to the sales tax side, the construction of each of those, and that'll be your approval for us to move forward with those. But as of this moment, nothing has been done, and we'll bring that PIP amendment back to you for final consideration. On the program contingency, again, there's no effect. It only reassigns projects from bond fund to sales tax fund. On the design and construction contracts, again, we will advertise the construction as an OC Maps Trust project in lieu of an ID9 bond project, and then I mentioned the PIP amendment that will follow. On the schedule, we're bidding Southeast in February, Northwest Classen is summer of 2010. As a contingency plan, and as we manage these costs, we have the ability to add or remove bond projects if necessary, but again, the overall goal is to make sure as we're approaching the final years of Maps for Kids is to ensure that we've got at least a zero or a slightly positive balance in that bond fund. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. I guess maybe we've heard this before. The bond is over? They're finished? And this is the deficit?
So at the current moment, we're 8 years into the Maps for Kids program, and we have not actually awarded all the bond projects. If we were to proceed...
If we were to, we'd have this deficit?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're okay right this minute?
We haven't overspent the bond proceeds, but with the projects that were planned, if they were to be completed, we would be in a deficit situation. That's why we're taking those remaining. That's why we're taking those remaining projects and having them funded.
Now, who oversaw the bond project?
We did.
We did. We aren't out of total money.
Oh, okay.
We're out of bond money.
So
we got extra sales tax money.
Allocated, perhaps? Or
well, I think the big problem was Centennial High School. Centennial High School,
that was a bond project.
we knew that was a bust from day one, and it came through. Then we had some extra expenditures for Grant. We added those additional classrooms on Grant because of the demographic study, and that was not planned for. So there was when we did the demographics, we added classrooms to Grant.
Oh, okay.
But we took some classrooms away from some other facilities, which was have to be sales tax. So
okay.
So it all comes out okay.
It all comes out in the wash. Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
You mentioned this earlier. How many schools do we still have at 50% or less completion? I know we have about 4% still that we haven't started, but how many of those schools are we like 50% needing to complete? And the reason I'm asking that question is I'm sure you've looked at modeling to see how much it will take in contingency funds going forward if they're 5%, 7% over. So if we have, say, 30 schools left, have we projected out how much of that $20 million we're going to use for contingency?
We have. The good news is the 6% is in the project budgets, and so only at the point where you exceed 6% do we actually come to you and ask to use program contingency funds. So we can go up to 6% on every single project and still not touch the $24 million.
We have $24 million left if everything goes in accordance with what he's saying, 106%.
Same amount.
Now, we have several projects that I'll let you know that haven't used their 6%. And so as we complete projects like Heronville Elementary, we expect to return actually $200,000 to $300,000 unused on Heronville back into that budget, which will increase the $24 million. So as much as we have adds, we have returns to the budgets as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And if all goes well, we have $24 million at the end of the
At the
day,
end of the day.
which they can use.
We do anticipate using approximately $6 million of that to manage the bond issue. So I see that dropping very quickly as we prepare the documents for your approval this spring to the $18 million mark, somewhere around there.
Other questions?
Okay.
Other update status reports? Mr. Couch?
Just want to point out that Sequoia Elementary School is having a preliminary report community meeting on Thursday night, and that's at 6 o'clock. And then Emerson Alternative is having a planning programming community meeting the following Thursday night on the 14th at 6 o'clock. And our next trust meeting is 2 weeks from today on January 19th.
Are there any comments by trustees, staff, citizens? Seeing none, we're adjourned.